The galaxy trembled at the mention of the Reapers. They were not an empire, not a species, just a force of annihilation. Planets vanished overnight, entire fleets disappeared without a trace. The most powerful civilizations in the universe had spent centuries fearing the silent, unseen executioners who struck without warning and left only ruins in their wake. No demands. No negotiations. No survivors. Chancellor Viral of the Zalari Dominion stood motionless as the latest report flickered across the holo display. Another colony lost. No distress calls, no escape pods. Just void where a thriving world once existed. He exhaled slowly, mandibles clicking in barely contained dread. The Reapers had struck again. Across the galaxy, rulers and warlords whispered in hushed voices, searching for explanations. Were the Reapers an ancient AI menace? A forgotten war machine from a lost civilization? Some believed they were divine retribution, a punishment for the sins of galactic conquest. Others claimed they were spectral beings, phasing in from another dimension. The truth had been debated for centuries, but no one had dared to find it. Until now. Keth Varen sat in the dim glow of his ship's data terminal, hands shaking as he scrolled through forbidden records. He had spent years piecing together ancient transmissions, lost star maps, and classified war logs, searching for the one answer no one wanted to find. The Reapers did not come from some unknown force. Their origins were not a mystery. They came from a world long erased from galactic charts. A world whispered in myths, feared even by those who had never seen it. Earth. The name sent a chill through him. Earth was a cautionary tale told to young explorers, a death world of impossible gravity, poisonous air, and creatures that could tear apart armored soldiers. A planet so hostile that even the thought of life surviving there was absurd. But the records told another story. Earth had existed. And the last recorded entry was not one of extinction, but of war. A war against the Galactic Council. Keth's heart pounded as he read the final transmission, preserved in a buried data archive. Humanity had not died out. It had been exiled, wiped from the stars, erased from history. But they had not been destroyed. They had adapted. They had evolved. They had become the Reapers. The realization struck like a death blow. The galaxy had feared a nameless terror for centuries, never realizing they had created it themselves. The humans had survived in the void, building their strength, perfecting their vengeance. And now, they were coming back. A warning siren blared through Keth's ship, snapping him out of his trance. The proximity alert flashed red, unknown vessels were closing in fast. They had found him. He scrambled to transmit his findings, fingers racing across the console. If the truth reached the right hands, the galaxy might have a chance. If it didn't. A deafening impact rocked the ship. Systems failed. Lights flickered out. The last thing Keth saw before darkness swallowed him was the cold, calculating gaze of a humanoid figure standing outside the viewport. They had come for him. The Shadow Accord had long operated in the depths of the galaxy, a secretive faction dedicated to uncovering the unknown. When Keth Varen's final transmission reached them, they moved quickly. If what he had uncovered was true, the galaxy was on the verge of a reckoning it would not survive. A scout vessel slipped through the dense nebula at the edge of the known star charts, following the last recorded coordinates of the lost world. It should have been a dead system. No active signals. No warp lanes leading in or out. Just an empty graveyard where a myth had once existed. But as the ship emerged from the clouds of cosmic dust, the sensors painted a different story. Earth was not a barren wasteland. The planet was intact, its continents overgrown but thriving, vast ruins still standing like monuments to a civilization that had refused to be erased. The team's pulse quickened. There should have been nothing left. No infrastructure, no active power sources. But their instruments disagreed. Something was still here. They descended cautiously, scanning the crumbling cities. Towering skyscrapers stood frozen in time, their exteriors weathered but resilient. The remains of war machines lay scattered across abandoned streets, some rusted by centuries, others disturbingly intact. Signs of battle were everywhere, but not of defeat. Then the ground trembled. A deep hum reverberated through the air as ancient technology awoke. Dust cascaded from long silent buildings. Lights flickered to life. The planet had detected them. A low voice crackled through the comms, artificial, yet unmistakably human. Intruders detected. Identifying. Species non-human. Status unauthorized. A massive structure shifted in the distance, revealing an underground complex buried beneath the ruins. The team barely had time to process what they were seeing before a message began playing across every active console, written in a language they had believed lost to time. The face of a man appeared, a relic of the past yet preserved by technology. His expression was resolute, his voice unwavering. If you are hearing this, then our warnings have gone unheeded. The war did not end, it was postponed. We were cast into the void, labeled as monsters, as threats too great to be allowed among the stars. But we did not perish. We endured. And now, the time has come for the exile to return. The team stood frozen, realization dawning with every word. Humanity had never died. They had only been waiting. An alarm blared from the ship. A distress beacon had been activated. Not by them, but by the planet itself. A signal had been sent. And somewhere in the depths of space, someone had answered. The silence of space shattered as an unknown fleet emerged from the void. No heralds, no warnings, only the arrival of sleek, black warships gliding into formation like predatory beasts. Their hulls bore no insignia, no markings of allegiance. But their mere presence sent a clear message. The Reapers had returned. The alien team scrambled to flee, but it was already too late. The lead vessel extended a boarding bridge, its surface pulsing with unfamiliar energy. A figure stepped forward, flanked by armored soldiers, tall, imposing, unmistakably human. Marcus Thorne, commander of the Reapers, regarded the intruders with a measured gaze. There was no anger in his expression, no malice. Only certainty. He studied them as one might observe an insect that had wandered too close to the fire. "You came looking for ghosts," he said, his voice steady. "Now you've found us." The team stood paralyzed, words failing them. They had uncovered a truth the galaxy had spent centuries fearing. Humanity had not been erased. It had been watching. Calculating. Growing stronger in the darkness while those who had cast them out lived in blissful ignorance. One of the aliens mustered the courage to speak. "The Reapers are human?" Marcus's lips curled into something that wasn't quite a smile. "That's what they called us, isn't it? Convenient. A nameless terror, easier to fear when you don't have to acknowledge the mistake that created it." He gestured toward the ruined planet below. "We were betrayed. Labeled too dangerous to exist. But extermination was never an option, was it? You should have finished what you started." The weight of his words settled over them like a shroud. The Reapers weren't an anomaly. They weren't some rogue faction of warlords or AI remnants. They were the remnants of Earth, of a people who had been driven from their home and forced to adapt in the most hostile conditions imaginable. And now, they had returned with an agenda of their own. Marcus stepped closer, his presence suffocating. "For centuries, you whispered our name in fear. You told stories to your children about the monsters lurking in the void. You never thought we would hear them." His eyes darkened. "You were wrong." A new transmission pulsed through the fleet, broadcasting across the stars. Not just to the Galactic Council, but to every empire, every colony, every species that had ever spoken of the Reapers as something unknowable. "The hunted have returned," Marcus declared. "And now, the Reapers decide your fate." The galaxy descended into chaos the moment the transmission spread. Fear took hold of the ruling empires. The Reapers were no longer myths or cautionary tales. They were real, and they were here. Across countless star systems, leaders gathered in urgent councils, desperate to form a response. Some called for immediate surrender, willing to kneel before a force that had operated from the shadows for centuries. Others refused to bow, demanding war against an enemy they had once exiled. Armies were mobilized, Fleets scrambled into defensive formations, but no one could ignore the sinking realization that they were already too late. The Reapers did not make demands. They did not seek peace or conquest. They had spent centuries perfecting warfare, understanding the weaknesses of those who had once judged them unworthy of existence. And now, they had come to deliver a reckoning. Marcus Thorne watched from the bridge of his warship as enemy fleets assembled, their formations rigid, predictable. He had seen this before, armadas built on the arrogance of civilizations that had never tasted true war. They were not ready. The battle began with brutal efficiency. Alien ships launched coordinated assaults, weapons flaring against the darkness. But the Reapers did not fight like any known force. They struck without warning, their vessels vanishing and reappearing with impossible precision. Their technology was not stolen or reverse-engineered. It was perfected through centuries of survival, honed by a species forced to adapt in the cold void. It was not a battle. It was a demonstration. Minutes passed before the first alien flagship fell, its remains scattering into the abyss. The others followed. For every Reaper vessel that took fire, 3 more emerged from the shadows. The enemy's strategy collapsed as fear took hold. Ships fled in desperation, commanders abandoned their posts. What had been an armada became a slaughter. And then silence. Marcus opened a final transmission, his voice calm, unwavering. This was mercy. The remaining forces did not respond. They knew the truth. The war had ended before it had begun. On the Galactic Council's homeworld, the surviving rulers stood before the Reaper delegation, their faces pale with the weight of what had just transpired. They expected demands. A list of planets to be seeded, reparations to be paid, terms for survival. Marcus gave them none. "We are not here to rule," he said simply. "We are here to remind you of the cost of your decisions." A single message was sent across the stars, one that would reshape the course of history. "The Deathworlders have returned. And now, the galaxy is ours."